Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. I'm Sheryl White, and I am delighted today to have Mike Cothrine as our guest. And did I say Cothrine correctly?
You got it, Cothrine. Right on. Kudos.
All right.
Cheers.
Yeah. Mike is the founder and owner of Mike's Fit Family. And he is going to talk to us today about really being inspired as well as inspiring others to live their best life.
Yes.
So, Mike, I'm going to just start by asking you to share a little bit with our listening audience about your own life and leadership journey.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, for me, leadership has been more a thing by forced into. I always, when it came to sports, I remember as a young child, just doing the best I could. And, my peers being like, oh, you should be the captain of the team. And I strayed away from it. And then the same thing within first jobs and work, things like that, where I'll be getting pushed into leadership positions. But it would be by default, not because I wanted it. And then finally, as an adult, I started surrendering to maybe God, that's what you have for me, So, and just embracing that and realizing it's never been about wanting to be a boss or to, tell people what to do. It's always about accomplishing a goal and realizing that it takes a team and guys just put me in a position to be a leader, when it comes to, work and business and life in general and otherwise.
Okay, well, good, wonderful. Well, I think maybe before we talk about launch, the program we're going to talk about today, I'm going to have you maybe share a little bit about how you kind of came to the launch program. Like what led you to develop the framework and the program that you're going to share with us about
That's
today?
that's a great question. It was by necessity, you
Mhm.
know, um, during, as health and wellness, being my forte and realizing that wellness is not just physical, it's mental and spiritual, in my opinion, as well. When the COVID pandemic hit and we were no longer to be physically together and I could no longer physically, touch all the people, myself and my team, I had to become creative in how do we serve these folks. And hence the idea, the inspiration for the launch came about a 6 week life transformation journey where I could give people tools that they could utilize, what I think are critical aspects of each aspect of their life. And so they could not just survive, but thrive during that challenging time.
Mhm. Good. So if you were to give us a overview of just what one gets out of that, like what's your goal? Your hope is by the time someone completes the launch program, and I know we're going to talk about each of those letters, and
Yes.
our agency is going to have the pleasure of having you actually come in and do the launch program for
Yes.
us. But at the end of the launch journey, what do you hope people take away?
Well, it's going to be somewhat individual. So, like, I will have people set intentions for themselves, but in any form or fashion, I would like people to feel more a sense of self confidence,
Mhm.
self love, feel like they have some tools to live their best life in a very practical way to move forward, feeling more confident that they have a purpose and a mission on this planet and that their life matters, and some tools to take into action to, have a high level of self-love practice and get into their mission on this planet while they're here.
Okay, okay. And when you say live their best life, what does that mean to you?
To me, well, I believe we all have a purpose on this planet, and foundationally, you know, uh, in my opinion, a feeling of love, being loved, and having a feeling of a fulfilled life. Where their life has a purpose. At the end of the day, they feel fulfilled.
Mhm.
That they have meaningful relationships, starting with themselves, and, a feeling of being successful, in their own regard, which is completely individual. All of those components to me go into living your best life. And of course, how you feel in your skin as well, you know, um, and having a healthy body temple, healthy body temple, healthy mind.
Wonderful. So let's jump into it. And launch is, I know you have a meaning behind each of
Yes,
those
yes,
wonderful letters. So let's just start with the first one, L. Talk to
yeah.
us.
All right. So, love, the first week of the launch, is a journey in number one, learning to love yourself and self love practices within that. And first of all, being honest about loving yourself. Like, do I love myself? See, I thought I loved myself because I liked myself. And I learned as an adult that's two different things. Like, I was always confident. I liked the person I was. But when I looked at how I treated myself in a lot of ways and how hard I was on myself, it's like, that's not love. So number one, learning to love yourself, what that means, diving a little bit into relationships and being aware of how you treat yourself, how you treat your others, the dynamics within that. And also, forgiveness. Forgiveness to me is a huge part of this love journey and self-love journey. So everything ultimately starts with yourself and then branches out to others.
Mm. And so, loving one's self and liking oneself. Um, Talk to me a little bit more about the distinction and what shows up when we like ourselves and what might show up when we actually are loving ourselves.
I'll say, so I'll use myself personally.
Mhm.
Liking myself, I was, I was fairly confident in who I was as a person. I had good friendships, things of that nature. Felt good about my integrity and the way I walked throughout life. But when I looked at how critical, I was of myself and how I lacked tenderness, like the tenderness that, like, say, my mom would give me, I wasn't giving myself those things, goals that I would have for myself, just how critical I was in myself. I think we all have different attributes in our lives, and it's a spectrum, right? So say there's a number from, say, 1 till 10, I would say I was probably around 7.5 or 8, which is pretty great. But 20 to 25% is still a lot, a lot to be desired, So learning more ways to be kind to myself and give myself more grace, being more tender. To me, that's a completion, of more of self love. And it's obviously individual. I've learned over the last 20 years to meet people where they're at. But I think we all have blind spots, and I think there's all spots like where we could use, more building of self-esteem and building. You can't love yourself too much. You can't love yourself too much. So I think we all have areas where we can grow in our self-love practices.
Now we can love ourselves too much if we become narcissistic.
Yeah, yeah, which which exactly, which
That moves into like a more of a
yeah,
disorder.
exactly. And,
Disorder, but
and, and, and I would say that people who are narcissists don't actually love themselves at all.
oh
You
yes,
know,
okay, that's a
no, no,
good point.
yeah, that's a false, just like,
Yeah.
people who act like they're better than others. They don't.
hmm
Those are the most insecure humans on the planet, so,
Yes. Yes.
there's no love involved.
Yes. And so I hear quieting the criticism about oneself, the negative self-talk, and you've used the word tender a few times. Talk to me a little about what tender means to you,
With
treating
that,
ourselves in a more
well,
tender way.
so I've been blessed to have a really loving mother.
hmm
And so I don't want to draw a broad brush because we all had different experiences. But
hmm
I think we can all imagine what would be ideal, what the form of like a mother's love is,
hmm
a very powerful,
hmm
unconditional, healing, nourishing thing.
Mhm.
And being a man,
Mhm.
you know, and the way I was raised, that's a foreign aspect to the idea of loving myself in that way,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
But something came to me of learning to be that tender and kind. So giving yourself grace, loving
Mhm.
yourself unconditionally, um, being compassionate, you know, with yourself. To me, that encompasses like a mother's love, and to me, that's truly tender.
Mhm. Wonderful. Appreciate that. And love that word, being compassionate with oneself. Being compassionate with oneself. What does that look like?
That means realizing that we all make mistakes,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
we're all going to have, like I say, mistakes along the way,
Mhm.
and giving yourself grace within
Mhm.
that. You
Mhm.
know, some of us are good at giving that grace and compassion to others, but
Mhm.
not giving it to ourselves.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, like I know it's all individual, so like I can only tell from the experience I've had of serving people and
Mhm.
what's true for me.
Mhm.
I'm quicker to forgive others than I am to forgive
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
Often, you know, I'm quicker to give others grace, but
Mhm.
hold myself to a different standard, you know, with that, you know. So,
Mhm.
you know, to me, that's, you know, what true compassion is.
Mhm.
You know, when you make mistakes, self-forgiveness, you know, it's being easier on yourself in
Mhm.
this as we navigate through the day.
Mhm. Okay, wonderful. So we're going to take a short break and be right back with more to hear about the rest of launch with regards to what does that AUNCH also stand for. So
That's
please stay
that.
with us. We'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. Today, talking to Mike Cothrine, founder and owner of Mike's Fitness Family. And we're talking about launching into this new year, inspired and inspiring others. And Mike has a wonderful program that he uses to support doing that. And it's the launch program. And so we talked about the L in that, and we're going to talk about the AUNCH as we progress through the rest of our program. I'm going to circle back to the love, which is what the L stood for. And as we were winding down and we went into commercial break, we were talking about the word that Mike used in that journey of talking about self-love and giving ourselves grace. So we were kind of batting that around a little bit during the break.
Yes.
So Mike we okay with just kind of sharing the definition that I learned many years ago from from my pastor, Pastor
Yes.
Stanley. We talked about grace being undeserved kindness.
I love that.
Uh, yeah, so just wanted to kind of share that as we
I love
double
that.
clicked on that word grace,
Yes.
kindness, giving that to ourselves and then extending it to others as well. So thank you for that. Let's move on to A. What's the A stand for in the launch program?
Actualization.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
To us, what is actualization about?
So in this form and terms, and it means living a fully actualized life. So going through what would be ideal if anything were possible, not braced with the limitations that we gained along the way, but when we were a child, when we felt like anything was possible for our life, what does that look like for you in every aspect? What would you be doing on a day-to-day basis? How would you feel when you woke up in the morning? Who would that person be? How would they show up? And in every aspect, so taking a chance that, you know, what you desire is possible, so, encouraging people to, write down the things that will be ideal and then us giving some tools and steps to head in that direction,
Mhm.
which I think is a great thing, at any time, especially as
Mhm.
you're going into the new year.
Mhm. I love that. What you desire is possible. Holding that, and when we think about our desires, we think of hope.
Yes.
And I love your taking us back to childhood when we weren't aware of all of the barriers
Right.
and struggles and limitations that
Yes.
the world around us gives us awareness of. And those things can make it harder to envision the possibility. So I like envisioning the possibility that actualization, being able to look beyond what might be visually what we see as is, but looking
Yes.
beyond that to our hopes and what we envision to be possible. Any other thoughts about that actualization? If
Yeah,
someone say,
just that,
how do you feel that?
within it, a lot of our limitations,
Mhm.
are based in fear, doubt, and worry, that they're not
Mhm.
actually based in reality,
Mhm.
and also a lot of our limitations are inherited, and just people reanalyzing, like a lot of times when we look at our lives, we're telling somebody else's story. Like when we're a kid, we have this big vision, and then sometimes even our well-meaning, the adults, our parents or something, will project what was possible for their life and
Mhm.
unknowingly place limits on what's possible for our lives. And we
Mhm.
end up accepting those limitations, in various forms,
Mhm.
so, getting out of those ways, really going back to that point where when anything was possible and realizing that
Mhm.
that's closer to reality than probably what we've accepted at this point.
Mhm. Wow, you said a lot there. Telling someone else's story, overlaying someone else's story, accepting someone else's story about us as opposed to writing our own story.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. And stepping away from the fear, doubt, and worry. What's the
Yes.
practicality with regards to how we support others and stepping away from fear, doubt, and reality? Or say fear, doubt, and worry. Any thoughts there as to how do we help somebody do that?
Well, number one is when you face it, when you go head into fear, most times you'll find a lie.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
and those fears are based in a projection of
mm-hmm,
things that have not happened yet.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So using your imagination for worst possible scenarios rather than the best ones.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
so once you can do that, there really is a lot of freedom on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you say as a good faith folk would say, false
Yes,
evidence appearing real,
yes,
knowing that fear is false evidence appearing real,
yes,
and being
yes,
able to move beyond that.
yes.
Love that, love that, love that. Well, let's journey to the you. What's the you about?
So once you go from actualization, like you have a big picture for your life of what's possible, then it's time to dive into your uniqueness
Hmm.
and realizing that each one of us has unique talents and gifts
Mm-hmm.
that we showed up within this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing how special we all are, that we are all one of one.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you have, say, if you love to sing or dance, there's a way that your song and your voice is different than anybody else on this planet. Your
Mm-hmm.
dance is different than anybody else's on this planet. So
Mm-hmm.
really honoring that within yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
you are one of one,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes you so special.
Okay. And wanting to trace back and look at the first three before we go to the next ones and say, well, if I am a supervisor, if I'm a leader, and I'm supporting bringing out the best in my team, and I want to encourage them in self-love, encourage someone with actualization, encourage someone in their own uniqueness. How might I do that?
Well, the best part, which I can see it in you, is number one, being an example of that.
Mm,
There's no better thing if you, to me, a good leader is illuminating everything that they want to see.
mm,
So being that, I think is the most powerful
mhm,
thing, within that first and foremost.
mhm,
And then on a more practical level, these are conversations, but
mhm,
we can get into later, but basic tools within that, just reminding people
mhm,
in a very short way, of these things, that they're worthy of love, that
mhm,
they're worthy of having a successful, vibrant, full life,
mhm,
that who they are matters. Just reminding them of those things can be powerful to
mhm,
initiate like a consistent conversation. When you just bring up that energy and you allow space for it,
mhm,
it allows for that energy to grow because we're paying attention to each one of
mhm,
those aspects, if that makes
mhm.
sense.
That makes a lot of sense. How might someone stifle space? How do you allow for space for love, actualization, and uniqueness in our engagement with others?
So, one, I think in a collective agreement,
Mm-hmm,
what we learned when we were five, treat each other like you want to be treated.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I think most people would have an agreement of, of love, of
mm-hmm,
respect, wanting them the freedom to be themselves.
mm-hmm,
So it's like giving, treating others like you want to be treated. You want to be loved,
mm-hmm,
be a loving person. You
mm-hmm,
want the freedom to be yourself and to live your best self, and you want to be supported in that way,
mm-hmm,
then set an intention to be that for other people.
mm-hmm,
And I think that allows for a collective space, and it also empowers people to
mm-hmm.
be a better version of themselves, because I think at our core we all want those things.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And so as you're sharing and I'm thinking, we always say the culture becomes what's being modeled, supported, and rewarded. So if I am leading a group and launching them into a new space, then I encourage self-acceptance. And
Yeah,
I encourage, so one thing's for me to model it, and the other thing's for me to support it and coach it and create space for others to also be forgiving of themselves
yes,
and to encourage a person to look beyond maybe the role they're in and
yes,
to other possibilities and help them see what we may see in them with regards
yes,
to the greatness that they may not have
yes,
had or the uniqueness of the skills that they bring and how their uniqueness add value. I think are all wonderful ways in which we as leaders can also support. One, we model it ourselves and so that we're walking in it
yes,
ourselves, but then being able to have language that allows us to articulate and allows us to have a deep enough understanding to coach up and coach out maybe these characteristics and things in others. So that's kind of taken us through the LAU, the
Yes.
love, actualization, and uniqueness. When we come back after this next break, Mike, I'm going to ask you to break down a little bit for us the NCH. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. Today, we are talking about being inspiring and being inspired, bringing out the best in ourselves and bringing out the best in others with Mike Cothrine. Mike is the founder and he is the owner of Mike's Fit Family, and just a wonderful resource and tools that so many of our organizations use to really focus on wellness. So glad to have you here, Mike, talking about wellness and your launch program. Now, we talked about the L, the A, and the U, love, actualization, uniqueness. Let's dive right on into the N. What's the N about?
Now, now,
Wow.
now, this now moment. Like we all know that this moment is the only moment we have, but
Mhm.
how good are we at living in it?
Mhm.
So that part is getting more practices on learning how to be fully present in this moment, not being caught up in the past or yesterday, or being so caught up in what's going to happen tomorrow or what might happen, where you miss today. And I think we're all guilty of that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some of us are more past oriented people, some of us are more future oriented people, some of us are both.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think we all, you know, could do better at learning how to live in this now moment, because that's where all the gifts are.
So, what does that look like when someone is living in the now? How do I feel it and be it?
I'll tell you what, some people would have used the idea of a flow state. Like if you've ever been inspired when you're working on something and then like things like time kind of disappears,
Mm-hmm.
where then you look up and it's 3 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's a good example. Being with loved ones, same thing happens where you're
Mm-hmm.
completely dialed into that moment, that conversation, that laughter, that hug.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, those are real time examples that happen
Mm-hmm.
for us within that, but also just practices. It's a practice, right? You know, so disconnecting from the phone, putting it
Mm-hmm.
on silent, and it really is a thing also that I feel we should be more intentional about. You know, and it's a practice just like anything else. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because we all know our heads will be going all over the place. But
Mm-hmm.
those are a few examples where it seems to naturally happen.
Okay, so putting down the phone and quieting our attention from distractions. Anything else? If I was just saying, "Gosh, how do I practice being in the now?" I'm going to push my phone away. I'm going to turn off the TV.
Yeah,
Well, I am going to I'm going to engage someone in a way where I'm literally um, just doing what, or I'm engaged myself in a way where I'm just doing what. What's me being in the now?
so
Give
the
me a practice.
simplest, I give you one foundational simple practice,
Mm-hmm.
and you know it's based in the idea of meditation, which
Mm-hmm.
you know which teaches us to be in a longer, but
Mm-hmm.
simply taking few, three conscious breaths in a moment. I know you
Okay.
know, like you know, at a lot of these all staff meetings and in
Mm-hmm.
service you've been with me, where I
Mm-hmm.
invite people to do that, but it
Mm-hmm.
is for that very reason, you know.
Okay.
So,
Mhm. Well,
matter of
let's
fact,
invite our listening audience to do that right now.
yes, yeah, I
Let's
think
say
that's a
you're
great
at,
idea.
just like you do at an off-staff meeting.
Yeah,
Invite
absolutely.
us into that
Yes.
space with you.
So if you're not driving, if you're in a if you're at home, you know, if you're in a place where you're safe, I would invite you to close your eyes.
Mhm.
If you're driving, don't do so, please. And we're gonna take three deep breaths in through our nose, out through our mouth. I'll guide them along. So if you breathe in through your nose right now, inhale, exhale through your mouth, breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Place your hand on your stomach. You know, want to practice belly breathing. Focus breathing in through your nose, but breathing into your stomach same time. Breathe in. Hold the breath for a moment and release. And notice how you feel.
Mhm. Yeah, wonderful sense of relaxation. And just the thought of how it makes a difference when we're actually breathing in through our nostrils, because a lot of times we will tell people to breathe, but we don't tell them how to breathe. And I remember, I want to say it was Sesame Street, we were teaching children
Mm,
breathing activities. And the breathing in was like smell the roses, blow
mm,
out the candles.
yeah,
Smell the
yeah,
roses, reminder of breathing in through our nostrils, and blow out
yes.
the candles was a reminder to blow out through one's mouth. Those little reminders there.
There's so many things we learned as children
Mhm.
that are foundationally wiser than we gave credit to. You know, that if we actually practice those things, like now, that will pay huge dividends as adults. That's for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So
And
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
but yeah, that three breath practice, I
Hmm.
encourage people to do it throughout the day, set an alarm for themselves. And it's just three breaths, but it really makes three conscious breaths makes a big, big, big difference. And being conscious of breathing in, like you said, through your nose, be conscious of diaphragmic breathing,
Hmm.
which provides more calm and more center,
Hmm.
where nervous breathing is more up in our chest.
Mm.
Panic breathing, but breathing deep into your nose, into your diaphragm, automatically creates more calm in your nervous system and allows you to be more present in this moment.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and that well, and studying energies, one of the energies you talk about is mental energy. And mental energy comes from that ability to focus. And one could see how breathing in and breathing out, and just like saying, okay, I'm going to be in this moment when I've prioritized what I'm going to do and I put it on my calendar, but I still got 154 things to
Yeah,
do. If I can just be in the moment with the things I said I'm going to do now,
yes,
and I could see again, kind of taking it from a leader's perspective, how might I support staff in being in the now? Sometimes they're feeling overwhelmed,
right,
and they might come to us and say, what? Well, what's most important? And we say things like, well, it's all important.
right,
That's not really what they're asking us. It's
right,
like
right, right.
figure out what do I need to do most, like in this moment, like what's my now, and to
Right.
really be able to help people to prioritize so that they can be in the now without anxiety, that they can,
Yes,
we can support them in breathing in and breathing out,
yes,
smell the roses and blow out the
yes,
candles and say, okay, this is what we're going to do now. I know there's 100 other things
yes,
that need to happen, but your now is this. That focused energy gives us that mental energy to
yes,
move things forward in the now. And I love the now that you talked about with regards to just being fully present with someone.
yes.
Okay, because that makes a difference in how we're serving.
Absolutely. I think that's the greatest gift you can give to somebody is to be fully present for them,
Hmm.
to really listen,
Yeah.
to really, really be there. And
Hmm.
that's, when the magic happens, that's when
Yeah.
you're actually living
Hmm.
life and, you're listening intuitively and you actually
Hmm.
respond more so from your heart space than just your head space.
Hmm.
It's really a beautiful interaction that happens that can happen,
Hmm.
in business environments as well as personal relationships, just
Hmm.
when it comes to employees and team and staff.
Hmm.
It's a wonderful way for them to feel seen and heard,
Yes.
which can alleviate so much anxiety and nervous energy and conflict.
Hmm.
When somebody feels seen and heard, being fully present really is a powerful, powerful tool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those home relationships have a way of finding themselves into our head when they're not taken care of, just as our work environment has a way of finding itself into our head when we're at home, when things aren't
Absolutely.
taken care of there. So when we can actually have those moments where we're in the now and we're attending to those relationships and helping both spaces be healthy, it creates
Yes.
a better launching pad for everyone. The other
Yeah.
thing that came to mind as you were sharing um, was I remember hearing Pastor Nate Stewart in one of we had him come and talk at a session we were doing, and he talked about hope and hope being helping others process and endure. That always stayed with me. It
Mhm.
was sometimes sometimes I can't take away your problem, I can't solve your problem, um, but what I can do is be fully present with you
Yes.
and provide hope, helping others
Yes.
process and endure. And so
Yes.
as you talked about that intentional being present, I can just be present to listen and help you process and endure what you're going through. So
Yes.
that just kind of came to mind as you were sharing that being fully present
I think we
as well.
I think we underestimate how powerful that
Mm-hmm,
really is.
mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
know, people can't necessarily put their finger on it, but they
mm-hmm.
certainly can feel it. They
Yes.
they can feel it,
Mm-hmm.
when you're fully there for them,
Yes. Yes.
and I also, within that being said, knowing that we all have thousands of thoughts running through our head and things pulling us into the past, future, literally all these distractions, coming back to grace. Give
Mm-hmm.
yourself grace.
Yeah.
Even if you're not 100% successful, if you
Mm-hmm.
can, that being in the forefront of your mind to consistently set an intention to be present is
Yes.
also worthy and powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, love that. Um, as we're talking about that intentional listening, the other thing that comes to mind for me also is just listening at that deeper level to where I am listening not only to the facts, but I'm also listening to, the person's feelings, how they're feeling.
Yes,
I'm also listening um, and trying to understand within their words what's most important. It's like, what are
right.
their values? What's most important? Because in doing so, then I can figure out how might I best be helpful.
Yes,
And when we think about compassion, say compassion is really, you know, can I reduce your suffering and increase pain? Can I help you reduce your own suffering and increase your own joy? I said increase pain, but I meant to say increase
I
joy.
got you. I'm with you.
So we, so really identifying those pain points and say, guys, is there something you can do for yourself? Is there something others can do for you that can really help you to um, reduce that suffering and increase that joy? I think being there in that intentional space, listening really deeply, can support us. And I say the act of compassion. The Dalai Lama talks about, being compassionate is really about responding in a way that says, I understand you, I feel you, I get what's important to you, and I
Mhm.
want to help you. So I know we need to take a break, but when we come
Yes.
back, looking forward to hearing more from you with regards to the C and the H in launching. So we have love, actualization, unique, in the now. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. Today, talking about launching into this new year as leaders who are inspired and inspiring to others. talked about the L, love, the A, actualization, the U, uniqueness, the N, now. And we're talking with Mike Cothrine,
Yes.
is the founder and owner of Mike's Fit Family,
Yes.
and here in San Diego, California. And Mike, I'm going to toss it back to you to bring us home and talk about the C and then the H, but let's start with just the C.
All right. Well, C is consciousness.
Okay.
And the importance of that is starting to get more control of our thought processes and
Mm,
realizing how they impact our nervous system, our immune system, and how we can become more the observer. It's said that we have close to 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Obviously, we're not aware of all of them. We would be crazy people if we were. But within that, there's a lot of defaults within those thoughts. And for most humans, they tend to be more negative rather than affirmative,
mhm,
which ultimately affects how we feel about things or how we look at things. So learning to be the observer of your thoughts and starting to be able to recognize them and look, is that true or not true?
mm,
Learning to choose new thoughts is so powerful in the way that we navigate through life, and, realizing a lot of those things are inherited,
mhm,
so, and realizing that they're not like original thoughts
mhm,
and, not having to take full ownership for them other than the responsibility of what we do with them so we can
mhm.
navigate and move forward in a more powerful and assertive way.
Okay. Learning to observe our thoughts. Say more.
Yes. So the observer effect, when you observe something, it
Mhm,
automatically takes the power away from it. So say you have a default negative self-talk every day of like, you know, I'm not good enough. I don't look good enough. I'm not smart enough.
mhm,
Whatever that is, So say that's the automatic story that's playing in your head. And then so by default, you're not feeling great about yourself. Your nervous system might be out of whack. But when you observe those thoughts, you
mhm,
can look at them, and you may not know where they came from, but just observing them alone
mhm,
takes the power away from the automatic reaction in
mhm,
in your nervous system and also the automatic reaction and like how you may react. Because if you
mm,
don't feel good about yourself, then you walk and act in a way
mhm,
that's less than who you really are. But if
mhm,
you can just pull back and like, interesting, huh? Where'd that come from?
mhm,
Is that the
mhm,
truth? And even if I believe that to be true, can I entertain that maybe that's not true?
mhm,
Maybe I am actually good enough.
mhm,
Maybe I am smart enough. Maybe I am strong enough. And it's
mhm,
amazing
mhm,
self-fulfilling prophecy. If you start telling yourself, just like you would tell ourselves the wrong thing, so many times we start to believe it. If you start to tell yourself the right thing, affirmative things, enough time, you'll start to believe it too. Just
mhm,
take practice. But observing it alone takes some of the energy off of it for you to take your
mhm,
power back.
mhm. So taking our power back and controlling our thoughts and being fully aware, are my thoughts um, harming me or are my thoughts helping me?
Yes.
Hmm. Hmm. And will I take control of my thoughts to where I can recognize the bad thought being the harmful thought, the good thought being the helpful thought. I can remember years back we used to talk about AM, PM. AM were awful thoughts,
Mm,
and PM was positive thoughts.
mm,
And it's like at any given moment, recognizing that situations and people don't cause us to feel the way that we're feeling is really
yes.
what am I telling myself? And I
Yes.
give myself an awful thought like, oh my God, I hit the pole. I'm gonna have to pay my deductible. I'm gonna be late to work. I'm da 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 da. Give myself all these awful thoughts.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm so glad I hit a pole and not a person. Oh, I'm so glad
Right.
I have
Hallelujah.
insurance,
Yes.
so which thoughts allow me to move forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
those positive thoughts allow me to to move forward. Love it. And the H, take us home with the H. What's that H about?
So H is the wrap up of overall health and wholeness. And
Mm,
what that means, and what that means, in my opinion, in my experience, is your mind, your body, and your spirit.
mm, mhm,
And it's a great way to wrap it up. So, like in the practical tools that we're going to utilize moving forward,
mhm,
to have an intention of how we practice, with our minds, becoming more present in the now moment. What are those things? Meditation, the consciousness, the observer effect, starting to use our imagination for the affirmatives, positive self-talk, our body temple, establishing an exercise practice from wherever you are, 1,000 ways to get it in. And,
mhm,
our spirit, for me, that's the energy. If you don't, have a faith practice, for me, that's God, nourishing, through meditation, through discernment, through teachers, connecting with the source of all things. If
mhm,
that's not, if that doesn't resonate with you, but then spirit, realizing that beyond anything, you are an energy source and
mhm,
that your energy precedes you. So
mhm,
just being aware that the energy you bring into each room matters,
mhm,
and it's just as much the energy you bring as the things that come out of your mouth. And I would say even more so the energy you
mhm,
bring than the
mhm,
things that come out of your mouth. So
mhm,
that's the wrap up within that.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
then, within that, once we get into the launch, people
Mhm,
having a little success checklist of how
mhm,
they intend to move forward,
mhm.
nourishing each aspect of their life.
Love that, love that, love that. And I like the whole thought of one launching oneself and supporting others in launching themselves and
Yes.
then being in service in a way that makes a positive difference for humanity, helping to
Yes.
make the world better, fairer, and more humane. So
Hallelujah.
absolutely
Yes.
love it, love it, love it. So Mike, our listening audience wants to get in touch with you. How might they do that?
So if you go to mikesfitfamily.com, you can contact me there. Just email Mike at mikesfitfamily.com. That's the best way to reach out. And within there, you can find out a lot of the good work that we're doing right now on this earth, and more to come.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Mike, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you to our listening audience. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or download our podcast at your convenience. Until next time we meet, stay informed and move on forward with finding those solutions. I say there's nothing out there that has a challenge that doesn't have a solution. So
Yes.
we are informing leaders and always inspiring us to keep on keeping on finding those solutions.